Lesson 2: The Rhinoceros and the Crumbs of Cakes. Once upon a time, there lived a Percy on an uninhabited island situated on the shores of the Red Sea. The head of the man was so shiny that the rays of the sun always reflected from his head. The Percy lived by the Red Sea only, with a knife and a cooking stove. The knife and the stove were very large. One day he took flour, water, currants, plums, sugar, and other things and made himself one cake which was 2 feet across and 3 feet thick. It was really magical, and he put it on the stove because he was supposed to cook on that stove, and he baked it till it was all done brown and smelt most delectable. Now it was time to eat the cake, but as he was going to eat it, there came down a rhinoceros to the beach. The rhinoceros had a horn on his nose, two piggy eyes, and few manners. In those days, the rhinoceros's skin fitted him quite tough. It had no wrinkles anywhere on his body. He looked exactly like a Niels Art rhinoceros, but of course, it is much bigger. The rhinoceros saw the Percy and grunted at him. The Percy left the cake and climbed to the top of the palm tree with nothing on but his hat from which the rays of the sun always reflected. The rhinoceros upset the oil stove with his nose and cake rolled on the sand, and he spiked that with the horn of his nose, and he ate it and he went away, wagging his tail to the desolate islands. Seeing the rhinoceros going away, the Percy heaved a sign of relief. Then the Percy came down from the palm tree and put the stove in its legs and recited the following verse: There that takes cakes, which the Percy man bakes, makes dreadful mistakes. After a month, the Red Sea had a heat wave. Therefore, everybody had to take off all the clothes they had. The Percy also had to take off his hat. The rhinoceros took off his skin and carried it over his shoulders as he came down to the beach to bathe. In those days, it buttoned under proof. He said nothing about the Percy's cake because he had eaten it all. He never had any manners. Then, since or henceforward, he waddled straight into the water and blew bubbles through his nose, leaving his skin on the beach. When Percy came there, he was very happy to see the skin of the rhinoceros. He danced 3 times round the skin and rubbed his hands. Then he went to his camp and filled his hat with crumbs of the cake. The Percy never ate anything but cake and never swept out his camp. He took that skin and he shook that skin and he scrubbed that skin and he rubbed that skin just as full of old dry, stale tickly cake crumbs and some burned currants as ever it could possible hold. Then he climbed up to the top of the palm tree and waited for the rhinoceros to come out of the water. Soon the rhinoceros came out of the water. He buttoned it up with the 3 buttons and it trickled like cake crumbs in bed. Then he wanted to scratch, but that made it worse, and then he lay down on the sand and rolled, and every time he rolled, the cake crumbs tickled him worse and worse. He was not able to understand what had happened with him. Then he ran to the palm tree and rubbed himself against it. He rubbed so much and so hard that he rubbed his skin into a great fold over his shoulders and another fold underneath, where the buttons made some more folds over his legs, and it spoiled his temper, but it did not make the least difference to the cake crumbs. The crumbles were inside his skin and they tickled. So he went home very angry indeed and horribly scratchy. From that day onwards, every rhinoceros has great folds on his skin and a very bad temper.